Welcome back, Lorcana players. It's Poisonous. In today's video, we're going to talk about 4 exciting new decks that I think are going to be good in the upcoming Fabled expansion. Obviously, set rotation is happening, so there's going to be a lot of changes to the meta. Many powerful cards are going to be sliding out of the meta, and there's room for some interesting theory crafting and different decks that you could run. So I came up with 4 decks that I think could be competitive, and I want to share them with you. As of the time of making this video, not all of the cards for Fabled are released yet, so it is possible that there could be some changes or there are some reprints that happen that might be better than some of the cards that I've slotted into this deck. But for now, I think that these decks are kind of relatively competitive, and I'm excited to hear what you think about them and what you guys are going to be playing. As always, thanks for checking out the video. Please, we're on the quest to 1,000 subscribers, so if you could exert the subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, everything helps. We're almost there, we're almost at 1,000, and I really appreciate all your support. So let's dive into the decks. So the first deck that we'll dive into is Blurple. The frame of the Blurple deck will look very similar to the previous set, however, there's a lot of important cards rotating out like Fox and Crab. So the bounce package, which was very good, and as of right now, Popsicle hasn't been announced as a reprint, so the Bell on 2 and Singing Friends, all of those cards are kind of gone. So we've had to rethink it a bit, and this is what I've come up with. So we have 1-drops for Diablo and Develop Your Brain. We have Tipo and Sail for Ramp. Yelena, she's a 2/3 that quests for 2, and when you play her, she gives a character challenger +2. So she's kind of serving the place of Crab and allowing our Diablo and our Tipo to do, potentially good tempo trades and increase their value. We're running Dumbo, the new legendary, who can be tapped and pay 1 ink to draw a card and gain a lore, but he also gives that effect to all the evasives, which allows us to combo it off with other cards in the deck. We're running Genie for card draw, Yago because he's a big challenge beast, and he also can run off the Dumbo synergy. 2 copies of Belle. I've come down on the amount of Belle because of the addition of Ursula and because we don't have the shift package anymore. So she is good, and maybe we could increase the numbers, but for now I'm trying it out with 2. 4 copies of Elsa, 4 copies of the new Ursula. So her effect is that when you play her, you can exert an opposing character, and then you can play a song for free that costs equal to or less than the cost of the character you exerted. So potentially you could play Into the Unknown for free, and because you've exerted the character, you can use that combo, or you can play All Is Found. Running 4 copies of Hades. He's definitely a staple and one of the best removal cards in the game. Running 3 copies of Monstro, and then for actions we have our Develop to help find our combo faster and to put actions in the discard for All Is Found. We have Sail, Finders Keepers for card draw, and we have our Into the Unknown, All Is Found. And the last card is the Magic Feather. The Magic Feather allows us to give a character evasive, and it stays evasive basically for the duration. It's almost like Magic Feather is equipped to that character, and it allows us to do some interesting combos with Dumbo. So that's where we're going with this deck. So the first kind of combo or synergy that I want to talk about is with Ursula. So I did already mention this, but she exerts a character, and you can play a song for free, potentially. So Into the Unknown really synergizes with this perfectly because you need an exerted character, and she exerts the character. You probably will be targeting something that costs 3 or more, and you can send it to the ink, so it's a great way to remove something good. All Is Found. This is our kind of secondary ramp after our turn 2 ramp. We're going to want to ramp up further to get to Monstro and our big cards. So All Is Found takes 2 cards from your discard and puts them into your ink. So you could play Elsa. She exerts a character that costs 5 or more. You play All Is Found for free. You gain 2 ink. And then a character like Yago, who you would have played the turn before, can challenge that exerted character potentially. So there's some nice synergy there with those cards. So the next combo is with Dumbo. So here's a better look at him. So when you play him, he's evasive. He's got breaking records. You pay 1, you exert, you draw a card and gain a lore. But it gives your other characters with evasive this. So we have a potential for a real strong looping combo with Monstro. So Monstro has Rush, But the secondary effect, Full Breach, says choose and discard a card, ready this character. They can't quest for the rest of the turn. So if you can give Monstro Evasive and you have Dumbo on the field, basically you would tap, draw a card, gain a lore, you pay 1 ink, and then you can discard a card to ready Monstro, and then you can repeat the effect. So what that means is that if you have Evasive on Monstro, you basically can gain a lore and draw a card and then discard a card, and just repeat that for as many ink as you have. So this deck wants to get, a lot of ink, and then once you have a lot of ink, then you can just start repeating this process, filtering through your deck, so you can obviously choose which card you're discarding to keep the best cards in your hand, and just keep gaining a lore. If you have 10 ink, you play the Feather for 2, equip it to Monstro, and start tapping the effect, and you would gain 8 lore, you draw 8 cards and discard 8 cards. So it's pretty good. One thing to note is that it can't happen the turn you play him, because the Exert effect isn't going to be usable until he's dried. So the turn you play him, he does have Rush, so you could challenge something, and then the following turn you could start with the Feather and the combo with Dumbo. So it's kind of a cool combo. I'd be curious to see how big of a turn you can get with the amount of ink and kind of pop off and just win the game on your opponent, even when you're a bit behind. So they're going to have to really deal with Monstro and Dumbo, so they're both pretty big threats, knowing that this combo could happen at any point. So that's the Blurple deck. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The overall deck building process is different now. Cards definitely seem overall less powerful across your entire deck. So I think the meta could be a little bit slower, and a fun deck like this that has a combo that pops off will be fun, and it synergizes very well with the cards that are in this deck. So I look forward to trying this when Fabled drops. So our second deck is the Red-Green Rockers. This is kind of similar to the starter deck theory stuff that has already been posted by Ravensburger, but all the new Goofy Movie cards seem very powerful and do synergize really well together. So this deck, I think, is going to be strong, and you're going to expect to see a lot of the Goofy and Powerline cards being played in this set for sure. So as 1-drops, we have Bobby and Clarabelle. Bobby lets you draw and discard, which is very useful for filtering. Clarabelle is here as a shift line and also has the secondary effect to remove items. We're running Ursula, who I think is a very necessary reprint. Power line, so this is a shift target for the big power line, but it's also Singer 4, so it can sing our Mother Knows Best, You're Welcome, and Beat King. We have Max, who's a shift line target for the Big Max goof, but he also can pay 1 ink on play to return a song to our hand. And Mother Knows Best is a song that costs 3 or less, so very good. We are running 3 copies of the Singer 5 Max Goof just to give another shift target and another singer. And then we're running 4 copies of the new Legendary. This Legendary seems really good. So this one says character quests. You can play a song that costs 4 or less from your discard for free, and then it goes on the bottom of your deck. Well, we have lots of songs that will fit that criteria and have really strong effects. So Be King will banish an opposing character. You're Welcome could potentially get rid of an opposing character or could be targeted on something ourselves. And then Mother Knows Best obviously bounces something back to hand. So really great tempo to play that for free when the character quests. So if you shift him, he can use that effect the turn that he's played. We have 4 copies of Maui Shark because we're running so many actions. The Shark is really good, also great at recycling them, and works really well with like a Pirate's Life. We have 4 copies of Powerline, who is, a crazy card, Singer 9, looks through your deck to play another cost 9 or less song, so really strong. We have the Shift Clarabelle as one of our methods for card draw. We're running 2 copies of Bend to My Will. I think that it makes sense that if we're running cards that let our opponent draw or send things back to their hand, that we have the option to discard their hand at some point and really close out the game. For songs, we have Mother Knows Best, You're Welcome, Be King, Pirate's Life, 2 copies of Under the Sea, and shout out Ravensburger for giving me the card reveal for Under the Sea. Such a great card, and I think that in this meta, it seems like there's fewer board wipes potentially, unless Be Prepared gets revealed very soon, that Under the Sea is certainly necessary, and Shift Powerline can sing this on turn 4 and deal with an aggro board. So it's in here for 2 copies, and then we have 2 copies of Eye to Eye, which says that each player draws 2 and gains 2 lore, and it also readies characters if you use the Sing Together option. So very fun, very strong cards in this deck. I think that we're going to see a lot of red, we're going to see a lot of green, and potentially we're going to see a lot of red-green. The first combo that I want to talk about is with Big Clarabelle. So this is nothing new. Big Clarabelle has been around for a while, but she synergizes really well with Mother Knows Best because you're returning a character off the board to your opponent's hand, and then you're getting to draw more cards based on the amount of characters that you're bouncing. You're welcome, same thing. You're sending something into their deck and then they're drawing 2. And that could be 2 more draws for you at the end of your turn when the Clarabelle trigger happens. And then we have the small Clarabelle just as a shift line. So there's lots of great synergy with Clarabelle for this deck. I think that she's gonna be one of the most popular legendaries, at least for this set, and potentially going forward this entire rotation, because she's got such a good effect. And if the meta is slower, a bigger card like her is gonna see more play, in my opinion. The next combo or synergy that I want to highlight is with Bend to My Will. So Bend to My Will is a 7-cost action. Each opponent discards all the cards in their hand. So this works great with Mother Knows Best. You return something good to their hand. Same thing with your Welcome. You shuffle something good off the board, they draw more cards, and then you end up forcing them to discard. And the new Eye to Eye song allows them to also draw 2 cards. So forcing them to discard after, you know, the card is supposed to have a downside that it also helps your opponent, but you can take away that downside with Bend to My Will. So these 3 cards, I think, really feed into why running Bend to My Will is worth it in this deck, even though this is kind of a song-heavy deck. It's using a lot of synergy with songs, but the bend is also, you know, huge in a deck like this. So I think that it makes sense to have it played here. So the last synergy with this deck is with the Max Goof Chart Topper. Definitely going to be, I think, the Chase Legendary from this expansion. Max Goof says, when this character quests, you may play a song with a cost 4 less or free from your discard and then put it on the bottom of your deck. So this is really great because Be King and You're Welcome and Mother Knows Best are all really strong songs to play for free. So it synergizes with Max Goof because you can shift on him, same with the Singer one. But you can also return a song and then play it and then use this effect with Max Goof. And I think it also synergizes well with Bobby, because maybe you don't have the song in your discard. You can have Bobby draw a card, you can discard, you know, a Be King or a Mother Knows Best, and then Max Goof can play it for free and send it to the bottom of your deck. So you got nice synergy here with this card, and I think that we're gonna see this card get played a lot. I really love the art on this card. I'm really excited for this one. I think that we're going to need to think of some ways to deal with him in other colors, especially like a Long Cane Zeus. Doesn't seem like it's coming back, so this card's going to be a menace for this set for sure. So that's the red-green deck, the red-green rockers. We'll talk about our purple steel kind of mid-range deck next. Our purple steel mid-range deck is kind of a reimagining of where purple steel left off. However, there's a lot of key tools that have left, like Fox and Snake. So we've had to reimagine how we look at this archetype. But I think that there are some great cards here that just haven't been able to be played. So let's take a look into those. Let's start with our 1-drops. So I'm running Diablo for card draw and Pain. The reason I'm running Pain is that he's a 1/3, so he survives challenging when he's boosted up and he's able to, you know, not die to things like Fire the Cannons. 4 copies of Cusco for card draw, 3 copies of Calhoun. Calhoun's a great challenging threat, gaining lore, putting down a body that can be tough to deal with. 4 copies of Doc. So Doc is our kind of main card draw engine for this deck. 3 copies of Giant Cobra. The 4/4 body is great. The instant lore gain is very strong. However, it's a illusion, so it does die easily potentially. But I think that the card is still really strong, even though we don't have as much burn as we did before. Running 4 copies of Tinkerbell. So she's evasive, she quests for 2, and she's a shift target for Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. We're running 4 copies of the new Lilo. The Lilo is great because it gives all of your characters Challenger +2 on play, and there is some other synergy there. But this is essentially the crab for this deck, but because it applies to all your characters, if you curve out nicely with like Diablo, then Cusco, and so on, works well. 4 copies of Lawrence. He's back, and he's got a great body. He's tough to take out. He's usually like a 2-for-1, or, you know, he pairs well with something like Bell. 4 copies of Pete. Pete's very necessary to shut down actions, still one of the best cards in the game. 4 copies of Genie, you know, evasive card draw. I've gone with 2 copies of Elephant. So the Elephant is the only good kind of mim card that's left. And I wanted a way that we could bounce Doc and bounce Pete. So here we are. 4 copies of the Elsa Fifth Spirit, 3 copies of Belle. I think that she pairs well with some of the cards in this deck that have more health. I'm trying out 2 copies of Stitch, Alien Troublemaker. His effect says during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in challenge, you may draw a card and gain a lore. So it seems pretty good, especially with the new Lilo card. We're running 3 copies of Big Tink. In this meta, there's less board removal, less board wipe. So the Tinkerbell's effect of, you know, doing 1 damage to everything on play, and then also the splash of 2 damage when, you know, challenging. I think that she's going to be a very good card, and she has a good shift target that's not going to be as easily removed as she was in the past. So she can shift on curve. A turn 4 Tinkerbell, I think, is very strong in this meta. And Strength of Raging Fire is back. Apparently, you know, it wasn't too busted, supposedly. So it's here, it's back again. So of course we're going to be running it. So we have a nice curve of characters, and we have lots of characters that can sing it and get some good tempo with that free remove. So the first synergy we'll talk about is with Lilo, Best Explorer Ever. She's a 2/2 that quests for 1. She's a 3 cost, so she's fitting in where Crab used to be. And her ability, Come On People, Let's Move, says when you play this character, your other characters gain Challenger 2. And Go Get 'em. Whenever this character quests, chosen alien character gains Challenger 2, and they can challenge ready characters. So this synergizes well with our Diablo and our Cusco, because they can trade up, draw a card, replace themselves, and get some value. And Stitch, who's already, you know, kind of beefy, can challenge characters and take them out. Well, with Challenger 2, he's a 5/4, and he can attack readied characters. And when he does so, he gains a lore and draws a card. So the synergy is there. I'm not sure the Stitch is, you know, 100% worth it, but I want to try it out because, you know, it's a fun little combo that people will have to play around. Being able to challenge ready characters is something that I would say don't underestimate. I did see that One Last Hope has been reprinted. So One Last Hope also has the same effect and works with heroes, so it could really work in this deck as well with somebody like Calhoun. But Stitch is also a hero, so you could use that same effect on him as well. So that's a card that could be worth running in the deck. So the Elephant has 2 effects. First one says when you play this character, you got to bounce a character back to your hand. So obviously that's where cards like Pete and Doc are the targets that we want to bounce, return to our hand so we can play them again and get more value. And the other one is Sneaky Move. At the start of your turn, you may move 2 damaged characters from this character to chosen opposing character. Well, the Elephant has 7 health, so really good at challenging into other characters, getting damage, and then moving that damage off, very strong. And the 7 health also works well with Belle, so you could even do it the same turn, where Elephant challenges, take something out, you play Belle, move 3 damage off. There could still be some damage left for the Elephant's effect, but I think that in this meta, the Elephant might actually be a half-decent card, and it gives us access to some bounce that, you know, Purple has always relied on to get extra value. So I think the Elephant is actually not a bad pick right now. So that's the deck. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The cards in this deck are good. There's a lot of proven winners here. And I think that the new additions will make it competitive into the current meta, so I'm excited to try this one out. And last but not least is our new Robin Hood and New Orleans deck. So this is a deck that relies on a combo with Dino or Down in New Orleans, and we have the Robin Hood Sharpshooter, who's a card that I've always loved and always wanted to be able to play. So I think that this deck actually might have legs this set. So let's dive in. First up, we have Powerline. So we have 3 copies of Powerline. He's our 2-cost character. Tipo and Sail are 2-cost ramp. The only 1-cost cards that we're running are Develop, and Develop is there to help filter our deck and put an action in the discard after 1 that we can later put into our ink with All Is Found. We're running 4 copies of Raya. Her ability to ready characters is going to be very strong in this deck and synergize as well, as you'll see. 4 copies of Robin Hood Sharpshooter, because we're running a ton of actions in this deck and almost everything is, worth playing. Having his ability is going to be very strong, and because we're ramping, you can play him on turn 3. And in this meta, it might actually be slow enough that he doesn't instantly get removed every time, which could be a lot of fun. We're running 4 copies of Maui Half Shark. So the Shark is great at returning actions from your discard, and there's going to be lots of stuff in our discard because we're playing Robin Hood. 4 copies of Powerline. So we're not relying totally on the shift package because we can play out characters with Dino. We're relying more on just kind of like hard playing, but we do have 3 copies for the shift. 4 copies of Mulan Elite Archer. This is in here to help fight for board control by being able to hit multiple characters at the same time and be played for free with Dino. I think that this is a good card. I am seeing a theme here that there's a lot of characters with bows in this deck. The next up is Robin Hood, and this Robin Hood has 2 effects. It gains evasive on our turn, and when it's played, if our opponent has more cards in their hand, then we can draw a card. So it's just a nice way to get some card draw, deal with evasives, and a quest for 2. It's a 6 cost, so it's enabled by Down in New Orleans. We're running 1 copy of Mufasa and 2 copies of Maleficent Dragon. Because we are ramping and we have the potential to have a lot of stuff a lot of ink to play with, then we want to have some big characters that can make an impact on the board and help win us the game. For actions, we're running Develop, Sail, Vision of the Future. All of these are just to help find things in our deck that we need. And then to deal with our opponents, we have 4 copies of Bee King. Bee King is going to be a strong card this set for sure. And it's coming back with an epic treatment, which I think looks really nice. 4 copies of All Is Found. We have a lot of singers that can put this to use, but mainly we want to be able to ramp. Robin Hood puts a lot of cards into our discard, so it synergizes well. So we can pick out things that we want to put into our ink. It's important to kind of strategically do this because we are playing Mufasa, so we want to have good hits for Mufasa. So putting in good things out of our discard into our ink makes sense, but you also want to leave good things for Maui Half Shark, so there's a little bit of selection that you have to think about when you're choosing what is going into your inkwell, because you want something good to get back later, but not so good that you feel lost without it for Half Shark. 4 copies of Pirate's Life. Obviously, Robin Hood playing up to a 6 cost action for free. This is one of the best 6 cost actions in the game, and the crazy people at Ravensburger decided to give it to us for 2 more years. So there's a lot of decks that really love that and a lot of players who really don't like that. I think it's a good card. Just, it's hard when you're close to winning and they keep knocking your lore down with it, so it can be frustrating. And then the namesake of our deck here, 4 copies of Down in New Orleans. So you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and you can play a character, item, or location that costs 6 or less for free. And we have lots of cards that fit that description. So let's look at the synergies first. So first up is Robin Hood. So Robin Hood says whenever this character quests, look at the top 4 cards. You can reveal an action card that costs 6 or less and play it for free. So we do have lots of great action cards. We have Down in New Orleans to get another character out. We have Pirate's Life to gain and subtract lore from our opponent. We have Bee King because that takes away a character from our opponent's side. And, we do also have All Is Found. We can gain some extra ink to ramp off of the Robin Hood as well. Next up is Down in New Orleans. So there's 4 really strong targets that we have here. So we have Maui Half Shark, who can be played for free, Powerline, who can be played for free, Mulan, and Robin Hood. Obviously, you can play something that costs less, but these are our kind of big hits. We do have other bigger characters, but they cost more than 6, so they can't be selected by Down in New Orleans. But any of these characters getting on board for free, especially if we're playing like Robin Hood turn 3, on turn 4, he's questing for 2, he plays Down in New Orleans, and then you get to play like a Shark for free or Powerline, or set up a Mulan, and then your opponent's going to be really scared to exert characters because they're going to get cracked back and it's going to hit 2 extra characters. So a lot of good spicy combos that you could hit here. Obviously, it's luck based what you're going to find, so you could really high roll or you could miss. But this deck, I think, is a deck where, you high roll and you're going to win for sure. And if you don't, it's still got options, it's still got strong characters, it's still got synergies. So I think it's a lot of fun, but it's, a bit of a gamble. and sometimes that's a fun way to play. The last synergy that I want to talk about is with Raya. So Raya says once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you can ready another chosen character of yours that can't quest. So that means that your characters can challenge, they can quest once, and then they can challenge the second time, or they could challenge and then they could sing. So, there's some versatility there, but cards that really work well with this are Maui Half Shark. Maui challenges, he returns, a pirate's life to your hand. You ink a card, the pirate's life is now singable because Maui readies, and you kind of used him to do 2 things on the turn. Mulan could attack a character, do 2 damage to 3 characters essentially. You ready and then do the same thing again and potentially hit more characters, or that's enough strength to actually take out everything you want to take out. So I think that's a bit of a deadly synergy. And All Is Found puts cards into your inkwell. So if you have another character singing this, you don't even have to ink a card from your hand, and this inking from All Is Found will trigger Raya, who can then ready another character. And she's got a decent body. She's a 3/3 that quests for 2. So this card I think works really well in this deck, so don't sleep on Raya. This is a card that I've loved and put in other decks in the past because of the ability to do twice as many things with a character. It can be really strong depending on the character that you're choosing. So that's the deck. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know which of these 4 decks I'm most excited to play first. I'm really thrilled now that rotation is finally here. I felt like we waited this entire set thinking about rotation, knowing that it was happening. It took away some of the fun and crafting decks for Reign of Jafar because everyone's excited to see what happens with the rotation, what gets reprinted. We're still in the middle of that. We don't have all the reprints yet, so maybe there are cards that would be better in some of these decks that are still to be announced. So I'll make edits if that happens. But here's 4 decks. Let me know what you guys think. What are you guys gonna play? Really excited to try this out. I'll be grinding on Pixelborn once I get some of the new cards and really trying out these decks and having a lot of fun. I think that green is going to be standing out big time with Max Goof, but red also got a lot of new tools, and purple with Dumbo has some fun as well. So thanks for watching the video. Drop a comment, hit that subscribe button, and let me know what you think. Cheers.